hope you're all doing well and that you've had a great week. To all of my house guests, come in, make yourselves at home and make yourselves comfortable. If you're visiting my channel for the first time and you'd like to become a house guest, don't forget to hit subscribe and activate all of your notifications. I'm Chez, this is Chez M0i, welcome to my place. House rules. Please do not watch this video if you have absolutely no interest in the subject matter as indicated by the thumbnail, you struggle to simply accept other people's opinions when they don't necessarily align with yours, you're a professional point misser, you are not able to engage respectfully. Remember that there are countless other channels that cater specifically to your needs and preferences. Therefore, please feel free to exit this video and engage with their content instead. Welcome guys to episode 12 of Coffee Chats, a series of alternative perspectives. My beverage of choice today consists of root ginger, lemon and Scottish heather honey. Let me know what you guys are drinking. Get cozy as we get into this episode. So, in light of a certain scandal that's been exposed in the media recently, I wanted to share what I've been thinking, but more importantly, I'm interested in what my house guests have to say. I personally think we should talk about these very uncomfortable subjects rather than behaving as though it's somebody else's issue. But before we get into this video, you may remember that episode 11 was centered around confidence and what that looks like. Some of you were kind enough to share your thoughts in the comment section, two of which I've selected. This comment comes from Ep.12 Thank you for this very much needed, thought-provoking chat. After having many experiences, I do know that this confidence and leadership go together no matter your level, age, race, education. In being a leader, I had to keep calm and press on many times, but one experience showed me that once I stood my ground with an exasperating co-worker, knees knocking at times, they came around, and when I left that position, I had made a friend. So I agree, self-confidence is vital, along with self-respect and kindness and prayer. Enjoy your evening. This comment comes from Bramil56. Girl, you've hit the nail right on the head. I had a conversation yesterday with someone who needed to talk to me about someone saying they were intimidated by me because I'm too confident. This one really hit home, thank you. Meghan has the power of knowing who you are. I am certainly empowered watching how she gracefully and quietly is going about her business. Thank you, Meghan. Thank you, as always, to everyone who contributed. I really appreciate you taking the time. Now, some of you, I guess, will be familiar with this story that in the last few weeks, Cassie Ventura made allegations against P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, whatever he's calling himself these days. For the purposes of this video, I'm not going to call him by any of his cartoon names, but by his given name, Sean Combs. A number of YouTubers have really done a deep dive into what apparently took place, so I'm not going to do that on this channel. However, I noted that he reached an out-of-court settlement with Cassie a day after she filed. Isn't that interesting? This appears to have opened the floodgates for additional potential lawsuits because other individuals have now come forward with similar allegations. I'm trying to keep away from this story because it is really disturbing, but one that I couldn't ignore, one incident I couldn't ignore was a really disturbing video clip of Cassie, apparently under a cover of some sort, while this so-called man was relentlessly degrading her. And then in a separate incident, a witness reported that Combs had asked the surgeon to perform breast augmentation surgery on Cassie. When the surgery was complete, Combs decided he wasn't happy with the results and demanded that the surgeon remove the implants, immediately. Cassie remained silent. She wasn't even allowed to advocate for herself because this so-called man viewed her as his object. So even though it was her body, he felt he could do whatever he wanted with her body. The surgeon reportedly advised heavily against a second surgery so soon after the first. But Combs was not going to take no for an answer. Apparently, that same surgeon passed away the following year when his car drove over a cliff. Isn't that interesting? Apparently, Cassie was 19 when she first met Combs, who became her mentor. Over the course of a decade, Cassie appears to have had no voice because she was allegedly groomed and subject to the demands of a seemingly narcissistic control freak who manipulated her from a position of power. I left school at the age of 18 after having completed my A-levels. I had intended to go on to university but ended up in my first full-time job. I was finally earning my own money and didn't have to rely on my parents financially anymore. At this job, I soon received unwanted attention from one of my managers. He was an Irishman from Essex in his late 50s, early 60s. The way he behaved towards me was highly inappropriate and completely unsolicited. Nothing at all on the scale of what Cassie allegedly endured, but uncomfortable enough for me to hate going to work, even though I loved this job so much. Because it included relentless comments about my anatomy and this man actually touching me. I couldn't say anything to anyone because he threatened me with my job. He said if I said anything, he would deny everything and no one would believe me anyway. I didn't tell any of my family members, and this is actually the first time I've shared this publicly. This was almost 35 years ago, and I'm sure this man no longer exists on the face of the earth. But I guess my brain protected me by blocking it out from my memory all these years. Earlier this week, Meghan was in Canada at the Justice for Girls organisation.
Meghan Markle visited a local Vancouver charity for the second time. After cheering on the Vancouver Canucks alongside her husband, Prince Harry, the Duchess visited Justice for Girls. The nonprofit promotes social, economic, and environmental justice and an end in violence, poverty, and racism for teenage girls in the city. Organizers say the conversation centered around resiliency of girls, as well as work that still needs to be done to overcome barriers.
And this was especially important to us given the Duchess's history as an 11-year-old girl doing her own advocacy. So it was really important to ensure that we had teen girls at the table, some of our interns who could meet with her and share some of their experiences and the work they've done to fight for justice for themselves.
Meghan visited the charity and the downtown East Side Women's Center back in 2020.
Now, while I don't consider myself to be a hardcore feminist, and I'm definitely pro-men, the fact that organisations like these have to exist shows that we as human beings still have an extremely long way to go. But it's great that this is something that has always been close to Meghan's heart, especially now that she has a daughter of her own. Despite what the sisterhood may drip feed into your subconscious on a regular basis, good, decent men certainly do exist. They're not the enemy. If a guy says hello to you in the street and you don't perceive him to be a threat in any way, simply say hello back and just keep it moving. If a guy holds the door open for you, simply say thank you and keep it moving. You don't have to feel fake offended and make a big deal over nothing. I think we sometimes as women tend to attach significance to things which really mean nothing at all. I'll share with you the advice I've given to my daughter over the last 20 years, so she's able to navigate her way through life a lot better than I was able to at her age. And just for the record, my daughter is in a very happy and stable relationship. We met her other half earlier this year and he's a very decent young man and I'm a very happy mum. Number 1, never envy what other people have. All facets of life these days seem to be image driven. As a content creator, even on your worst day, you're expected to appear in front of the camera, fully made up, polished and smiling. That's why YouTube is not my full-time job, guys. And that's why Instagram is so popular. If you look at any of these images here, this young lady, Cassie, she looks as though she has it all. She's beautiful. She was mentored by a world famous entertainer and she had her time in the spotlight. However, as has been revealed, she was living a very different life behind closed doors, behind all the glitz and glam and all the red carpet appearances. You should never envy what people have because you never know how they acquired these things, and what's presented to you will not always necessarily be the complete picture. Number 2, maintain your integrity. Never be willing to exchange any part of yourself for what appears to be what you want. More often than not, it's a false promise. Remember Harvey Weinstein and his casting couch? Remember that the good character it took you years to solidify can be shattered in a matter of seconds, simply because you didn't understand its true precious value. Nothing is worth sacrificing your integrity for. Number 3, always have your own stuff. I come from generations of business women involved in land ownership, property ownership, catering, hospitality, and fashion design and creation, amongst other things. However, women of these previous generations tended to rely on and trusted their husbands to manage the household finances, and were just given a weekly allowance to buy groceries and maintain the home. A lot of these women were ignorant of what their husbands did with the rest of the money, so when their husband passed away eventually, the wife had no idea how to pay bills, whether any insurance policies were in place, or the location of other potential assets. Having your own money means that there is a very negligible risk of financial abuse, which is what invariably happens if your partner is a coercive controller. Having your own stuff, including your own home, means it becomes very difficult for someone who has manipulative and controlling tendencies to constantly tell you what they did for you and you wouldn't have anything if it weren't for them. Number 4, always trust your instincts. Let's take a brief look at Meghan's in-laws. I love saying that. Princess Diana was made out to have psychological issues when she'd made claims against Charles and the establishment. I understand that even William had referred to his mum as paranoid. From what I can recall, it may have been within the context of the Panorama interview she gave all those years ago. Regardless of that, however, it's evident that the establishment tried to paint a picture that everything Diana claimed was in her head. Basically, the ramblings of a madwoman. Unfortunately, those ramblings appeared to have been based in fact, And because Diana eventually became a perceived threat, she paid with her life. A manipulative person will often use some type of reverse psychology and gaslight you into thinking that you're the problem, and whatever your issue is, it's all in your head and has no foundation in fact. I've personally experienced this on a number of occasions, and I can categorically tell you guys that my instincts have been 100% correct, and inevitably expose those individuals in the process. If the negative feeling you're experiencing won't leave you and actually becomes more intense as time goes on, chances are that it's not all in your head. Your instincts are a survival mechanism designed to keep you safe. Never ignore them, because it could mean the difference between you living and not living. Harry knows this all too well. The form of abuse that he and his wife have suffered has meant that he's had to flee. He's been gaslit that many times. Manipulation and control. I always talk about it in these videos, and it's plain for everyone to see. This is why Harry cannot let the family he came from destroy the family that comes from him. So guys, just a few final thoughts before I wrap up this video. It wasn't a light and fluffy one. I did say this episode was going to be an uncomfortable subject, but I really do believe we need to talk about these things and stop burying our head in the sand, especially our community. Some of you guys know what I mean when I say our community. And incidentally, I think this month is I can't remember the exact date, but it's the anniversary of the Walkershaw parade incident. Let me say that. Darrell Brooks was sentenced to life, I think it was this time last year. Multiple life sentences, and well deserved as far as I'm concerned. They should have buried him under the prison for what he did. This guy was the most, I've never seen this before, okay? I was riveted to the court case last year. The most manipulative, the most deceptive, the most devious, the most disgusting individual I have ever had the displeasure to come across. He even tried to manipulate the court system. He tried to manipulate the judge. It was a true spectacle. I've never been so riveted. And that judge, she had the patience of a saint. She could not be manipulated. She stood firm, because it was clear that this man had a disdain, to put it mildly, for women. All different types of abuse are experienced by all different types of people, regardless of what social strata you happen to come from. We can see that clearly with Prince Harry, okay? Financial abuse, gaslighting, control, manipulation, all the things that we've talked about on this channel. No one seems to be immune, and the best that we can do is just be on our guard at all times. Be alert, be vigilant, and just have your wits about you, because not everyone can be trusted. I mean, I'm going to be the first to hold my hands up. Everything in balance, but I don't trust many people, okay? I'm always on my guard, especially when I meet new people, because you never know what their motives are. I'm just glad that Harry has Meghan, because as you can see from his past relationships, they would not be able to handle what this woman has gone through, the level of abuse that she's had to endure at the hands of an establishment, at the hands of an institution, at the hands of a family who clearly do not like her. That's a lot for one person to take. I'm just glad they are where they are, and they continue to go from strength to strength, regardless of what people want to say.
Hype is already building.
And the volunteer programme, I mean, just since last night, since the Canucks game, 98 people have registered for the volunteer programme.
Here's a chance, Zetterlund, poke check, oh, what a save!
The power of sport and a royal veteran with a vision to bring communities together. Cassidy Mosconi, Global News.
Meanwhile, her in-laws are crumbling. Every day there's something negative about them. I don't talk about them too much because I don't want to talk about them. They don't interest me. I'm only interested in seeing Meghan and Harry and their family thrive. Okay, I may touch on them, you know, occasionally as it relates to Harry and Meghan directly, but what goes on in the royal family in the UK, I had already said before the Queen passed that when the Queen passes, everything was going to change, and you can see it. It's evident because the glue's gone. It's gone, and everything has literally changed. Not for the better, but for the worse. Yeah. So guys, let me know what you think in the comments. As it pertains to Cassie and Combs, him, as you can tell, I don't have time for him. Or as it pertains to Harry and Meghan. Even if you want to share your own personal stories, if you feel comfortable enough to do so. If not, I completely understand. But as usual, I'll select 2 comments from this week's episode to be featured in the next. And with that, guys, I want to take this opportunity to thank you for hanging out with me today. 2 weeks in a row for coffee chats. That doesn't usually happen, does it? Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we shall catch up in the next episode of Coffee Chats.